And I knew that Feng Shui was related to energy, and I knew it was related to the home, but I didn't really know what the psychology part might be behind it.
What is that psychology part, and how is energy and a clear home so important to your whole psychological well being? Well, welcome to In the Rising podcast. My name is Bettina, and this entire podcast is based on improving your life one step at a time, one book at a time, one podcast at a time, walking towards your life goals and walking away from that shame, blame game that does nothing for you. I welcome you today and my guest, Krystal Holm, as she talks about having a safe home that is safe emotionally, psychologically, and energetically. Has so much more to do than having a red door.
So I'm super excited to talk to you, Krystal, because you are the founder of Design Life Studio and the creator of the Designed Life method. But as soon as I got into the second sentence of the Feng Shui,
Feng Shui, yep.
Yep, designer, clutter expert, I was like, oh, I am ready to talk to her. How to use this to create space, peace, and prosperity. Because when I'm in different zones, I will remodel, I will remove things and buy new furniture, take out new furniture because I'm in a different phase. And I'm in a different phase like every 2 to 3 months. So there's always furniture moving. And I don't think I have used any techniques. So I'm super excited to how did you get into this? And how'd you get in?
Well, Feng Shui, I sort of officially started studying in college, kind of by accident, actually. I had to write a paper for my psychology class, and it had to be related to my field of study and something to do with psychology. And at the time, I had been studying energy since I was about 9, right? It was sort of a thing for me. It was something I was very interested in, very passionate about. And I knew that Feng Shui was related to energy, and I knew it was related to the home, but I didn't really know what the psychology part might be behind it. And so I sort of was excited to dive into the psychology paper to find out that part. And I was excited to learn more about Feng Shui, right? As a college student, I didn't have a lot of time for extra studies. So this was one of those rare opportunities where I had one. And so I went to the Denver Public Library. I checked out every single book that they had. It was like a 2-foot tall stack of books that I took home from the library. And I literally read every single one, right? I don't know about you, but I'm a total type A personality, had to have that A. And so I studied everything I could about it, and I wrote my paper. And in all honesty, I was more confused than I was in the beginning. And I didn't know why, but I was super fascinated. And I started kind of trying to apply it to my own life, right? I finished school. I was sort of doing it, trying to figure out what is right and what is wrong, because every book seemed like it gave me a different something. And so fast forward a couple of years, and I'd finished school. I was working as an interior designer, and I moved to Hawaii. I was working in very high-end residential design, and a design that had been submitted to a client. They were Chinese. They lived in China. They actually sent it back and said that the Feng Shui was all wrong and it needed to be fixed. And my boss really had no idea about Feng Shui. She didn't know anything about it. She pulled the whole design team together and was like, help, what do we do? We need to do something about the Feng Shui. And nobody said anything. I was the only one that knew anything at all about Feng Shui. And I totally, was like, okay, I will help. And at the same token, I was deathly afraid that the client might know more about Feng Shui than I did, right? They were the ones that knew it was bad. I had no idea at the time, how much does the average person know about it? I know it's a Chinese philosophy and it's a Chinese study, but I didn't have any idea. And so I took on this project, and I changed the design around, and I shifted everything as far as what I knew. And we gave it back to them, and it was a success. And I really, at that time is when I really, really fell in love with not just the process of feng shui, right? But really incorporating it into the space in a way that was really seamless and beautiful. And it really drew me in. And so I decided I wanted to learn more about it, like really, really, not just what I was learning from books, but so I went and found another I found another school. I went back to school, to college again, and I studied feng shui this time, as a specialty of how to do it, how do I do the thing, why was there so much confusion, like why was there so much misinformation out there. And I really started diving into like studying feng shui professionally. And the more than that I learned, then I started applying it to me even more. Like I felt like, okay, now I understand and how to apply it properly. And then I expanded and started taking on clients, right? Like, let me help you. I offer to friends, and let me start expanding my practice of learning how to do this. And I'm sort of a firm believer that you learn by doing, right? And so it just slowly grew over time. I'd always known that I wanted to start my own business. I tried a lot of times to start my own business, different things over the years. I mean, I've ran an interior design firm for a few years. But it always felt like there was something missing, and this was sort of that missing piece. And so, yeah, I just dove right into doing that.
And I would like to learn a little bit more, like, for some of us, and I'm going to put myself as the front of that pack. We've heard of it, and there's something like, well, shouldn't like this face the window and this face the door, like, and is that really, and if it's red it has to be in one part, like, is that a thing, but what would you say the fundamental is of feng shui so far as energy?
That is the fundamentals. Energy, that's the foundation of it. It's the study of the flow of energy in your space. It's the study and the mastery of it, really. Because the energy, I mean, it's everything is energy, right? Energy is everything is made up of it. It flows in everything, but it flows like water. Even through the air, it flows like water. It is the thing that animates life. It's the life force. And so it flows even through your space. And so feng shui is really the study of that. It's the study of, where does it get stuck? Why does it get stuck? How do we get it moving again? Where is it stuck in your space? And where is that reflected in your life? Because your home is really like just an extension of your energetic field. So it's a reflection of what's going on both internally and externally for you. All of that other stuff, all of the red door and you have to face the door and stuff, that is out there. It's so much. That is that's the mistake. That's the fake feng shui. That's the stuff you got to wade through to find the real deal. I think I was having this conversation yesterday, and I think I said, my guess is probably 95, maybe 98, possibly more % of the feng shui books that are out there that you read are fake, are just fake feng shui. They're not the real deal. And it's just misunderstandings, people that didn't understand the foundational principles and then went off on a tangent and thought they understood a thing that they didn't, and then started teaching it. And then that spread widely, right? Just the way things do.
Yeah.
But it's at the foundation, it's about this, and it's very personal. So the red door thing is a very broad and general, this works for everybody. That's a good sign that it's fake feng shui, right? Nothing works for everybody. You wouldn't go to the doctor and, like, you have a nose, so therefore this is what's going to work for you. Like, it doesn't work that way. It's very personal. It's very one, and it's all just math.
Yeah. And you said, your home is a reflection of your life, and there's times when it gets, I've seen that too, where it just gets, in my own home, where it gets really messy, and I feel like my life is just a little chaotic. And then I pull back as soon as I can get my home in a certain order, that things just fall in place in my life. I don't know if I'm feng shuiing on my own terms and didn't know it, but that's why I was so interested in this, because you are talking about creating prosperity in all of their lives. When you get a client, how do you approach this, or how do you start this conversation about adjusting things within their home?
Well, I personally have a 4-step method, right? It's the designed life method: mind, body, soul, and home. And everything I do with my clients revolves around mastering their space as a tool, because it is a tool. I do the mathematical calculations and stuff for them to really get them into alignment with their space. But I do talk to them about using their space, because what's happening and what you're describing, for example, is there's often two types of people, right? That chaos and that clutter when your house is a mess, that's a reflection of what's going on internally for you, right? It's an instinctive way of how we behave. When things feel chaotic, we behave that we live that way instinctively, and so we sort of create. But sometimes it's just like busyness that creates the mess, and then the mess creates the chaos in the rest of our lives, right? So it's a cycle that happens, and you can choose to be one of two types of people. You can be the person that's like, oh, I get my life together, and then I instinctively feel the need to clean. Or you clean and suddenly your life just feels like it gets better. The same thing happens when you're sick, right? You get sick, you get a cold, or you get the flu, you don't feel well. And you go to bed for a few days, and you wake up and it's like you got used tissues and whatever all over, the space, dirty cups from hydration or food that you didn't clean up after yourself. You got a little mess going, and it feels that way. Now, once you start to feel a little better in your body, you'll instinctively feel the need to clean. But you can also clean and you will start to feel better in your body, because that's just the way it works. That is, in some way, mastering the feng shui of your space. It's not doing the calculations and all of that, but it is using your space with intention to make yourself feel differently, which is the goal of feng shui. You want your space to empower you, to make you feel some kind of way, a good way, right? Yeah. You want it to be a space that you love, but you have to treat it with love to get that reflected back to you.
Yeah, I like how you put that all together. And now, how so far as your business, do you feel like people are really open to that kind of, or how do you get clients and they're like, well, or do you like they're looking for something like that and that's how they are drawn to you energetically? How do you feel with that?
Well, like you had said just a little bit ago, a lot of people come to me that maybe know a little bit of feng shui. They've heard about it. They might know, like me in the beginning. I know it's about energy and I know it has to do with your home, but I don't really know everything about it. So sometimes I get those people will come to me a lot. And of course, I put content out there to teach people and to reach people like that, to get that message out there. And there's other people that know, like, my space doesn't feel right. I can't settle it. I need, the energy is off. And those people are more just in that field, right? They're already in that arena of, they're about energy. And so they've maybe heard a little bit more about feng shui and they're looking for it on purpose. Like, I know feng shui will help me. And so I just want to make sure it's done right, because I'm not an expert at feng shui. Those people will also come looking for me. And then there's people that are like, hey, you're my girl. Every time I move, I call you, because it's personal, not just between you. It's personal between your space, because you have an energetic frequency, but so does your space. So, like you said, you move every 3 months. Is that what you said at the beginning of this?
Yeah.
So do I.
I'm in the same house, but I move everything around. I'm like, this is my whatever task or project I'm on needs a different energy, and so I move stuff around.
Got it. we've done the sort of nomad life for the last 3 years or so. So we literally move from one house to the next every 3 months, roughly. And so every time you do that, it's a new house. So it's like, it'd be like marrying a new person, right? It's your relationship with your home is like a marriage. Your home has an energetic frequency of its own. So you either vibe with it or you don't. And, or you get into alignment or out, so, but each one will have its own little base that we need to make sure that we're in alignment. And so I have those clients as well that they move to a new office. Like, I had a client that came to me who she had a fairly small office that she wasn't 100% happy with it, but she also wasn't having as many clients as she wanted. She wasn't making as much money as she wanted. And so she was barely affording to pay the rent on the office that she had. She didn't have her office at home. She was actually paying for an office space in a corporate building. And so she came to me and we feng shuied her space. And the very next month, she tripled her income and actually kept it there for 3 months. And so after that 3-month time frame, she felt confident, like, okay, this is my new income level in my business. I feel confident that I can maintain this. So it allowed her to quit her part-time job and go full-time in her business, which then gave her more room to take on clients. And another month or so after that, her landlord came to her and wanted to move her to a new office space. A new client had come to them, a bigger client. They wanted to rent out the entire wing that she happened to be in. And so all those individual entrepreneurs that had their offices, they were requesting all of them move to new locations so they could rent this whole wing out to a bigger corporation. So she doubled the size of her office, didn't raise the price of her rent 1 penny, because she was in a lease and they were the ones asking her to move. So when we got to the new office, literally we had to do it all over again, because now because feng shui is about, you have to look at the direction of your home. Like, what is the energy frequency of your space? And so I've got to do those calculations. Well, once we moved to a new space, we started all over again from scratch and did the whole thing all over again. And then a few months later, they bought a new house and she was able to move her office to a home office. And so, so I get that happens with clients too. So I sort of, those are my 3 main, I guess, groups of people that come to me and how they find me and sort of where they are when they get here.
Wow. Well, and that's amazing that, clearly what you do works. Clearly the energy process works. And you sound like, I can see you. And so, you sound energetic. I can see the energy when you're talking about it. Like, there's so much excitement and joy about it. But you also shared with me that, it has not always been an up and up for you. Like, there was definitely some, I can't say some or more, but you've had your share of abuses, and you were told you would never amount to anything. How do you feel now in reflection of that time to where you are now?
There's been a lot to overcome. There's been a lot. I grew up with a lot of abuse in my childhood, and I was literally told I should just be a housewife. I wasn't smart enough to do anything. I wasn't, there was no, like, go to college, do school, nothing. So, I mean, I even had kids straight out of high school. I didn't go to college until I was in my 30s. So I was older. These days I feel pretty good about me, but it's been, it was a good decade or so of doing this work. That's sort of how we didn't even dive into and we talked about my expertise as a feng shui person, but we didn't even talk about, like, the clutter part of what I do. And clutter is a huge part of the energy flow in your space. And I always had a lot of it. It's related to our mindset piece. And I had a lot of healing to do around that. I always wanted to be an entrepreneur since I was little. My grandparents owned their own shop. And I can remember being just a little girl playing in the office, playing the boss. I was the boss. Like, what are you playing? I'm playing boss. And they had the little calculator thing with the, like a typewriter where you got to push the numbers and all the paper would roll up. And I loved to do the thing. That was just my deal. So I started my own first company when I was about 6. And then that got shut down after I cut my sister's hair, and that didn't go well. But my first real business in my 20s, and I started many of them, even as an interior design business, and they were never quite the success that I wanted them to be, but there was a lot of trauma in there that needed to be healed. And that's really what led me deeper into the psychology part of Feng Shui. Right into where I started was for psychology paper. When I started taking on clients, I noticed all of them got stuck in the clutter part. And all of them had a story around it. And so I really started diving into that. There's not a whole lot of books out there to do research on about clutter. It was sort of like a PhD in doing all the work, applying what I was learning to myself, listening to what my clients had to say and trying to coach them through the process of how do I help them do this, right? For me, it was a learning curve. And for them, it was a thing too, where it was like, because all of my work is remote. I do my work from home, just like you, right? So I get to do the technical side and they do the physical side, which is a really great part of the healing process, because you go through this deep connecting with your home. And since it is a reflection of you, it really, it's going through this healing process of healing your relationship with yourself, just sort of what I had to do. In a number of years ago, I was injured on my job and I couldn't walk anymore. I was just sort of stuck at home on bed rest, and it was a workman's comp thing. And it was a huge battle. And it was almost like being a child again. It was just as traumatizing when every time my doctor would try to send me to a specialist, like for a diagnosis or whatever, the insurance people would come back and say no, like, yeah, you're not worth that. We don't think you need it. We're not going to spend that much money. And it'd be like, it's $100. Like, I am never going to walk again. Like, it very much was this same sort of battle around worthlessness and worthiness. And I started really taking that time for myself to really deeply apply, because it had been a long time since I had really shifted things around. Like, I'd applied Feng Shui to my own space for a long time, but this stuckness, right? Being stuck on bed rest, this being unable to walk and unable to move, my home got cluttered, right? And I sort of found myself in this place of just stuck. And I hired a coach to teach me how to start a business, and she hired me to design her space. And in the process, I was even reminded of things that I had learned earlier in my career when I was working in very high-end residential. I worked with a lot of very successful entrepreneurs, and designing their spaces behind the scenes, I really got to see a lot of how they live. Like, we see the face of them, but we don't get to see the secret, the lifestyles of the rich and famous. Remember that show? Right? I got to see that up front and close and personal, and they would tell me like what they needed. And so even when I sat down with her and she was like, I need space for yoga, I need space for meditation, I need space for this, I need space for that. And I was like, I can barely move. They won't let me go to the doctor. Like, I'm kind of on my own with healing my body. And so like we were talking about earlier, when you were sick or when you started decluttering, I started doing yoga. I feng shuied my space on purpose, like to get really, really intentional about, I'm going to use my space, not just to feng shui it, but to use it like an engine, like a machine, because that's one of the things I had learned about energy is, right, when you want to manifest something into existence, not only do you have to get in alignment with it energetically, but there has to be some sort of power there, right? The energy has to be raised for it to manifest, right? You can't just wishful thinking it into existence. You have to actually get into action. You have to get into momentum. You have to build that energy that's going to make it happen. And so my intention at that time was to use my space that way, as a whole sort of 3D vision board, into making it into existence. And that's what I ended up doing. And that's how I actually even ended up creating my framework around the whole thing. I started really looking at everything my clients had taught me about clutter. And then I started looking at my own space and like, oh, okay. And really started connecting the dots on some of these relationships with how the whole thing works. And I mean, that was really my process of mastering even what I do and how I do it with clients. But I had to start with me and the whole healing process of overcoming that. And I think these days I'm kind of proud of where I am. I remember having a day about a year ago that I'd always wanted to be somebody that I could admire myself. And I never really felt like that. And it was about a year ago that I was like, there was a day that all of a sudden I just had this realization that I admired myself. And that was a pretty powerful moment, actually. So I'm pretty proud of my accomplishments, actually. Yeah. And I don't think we own that enough as women.
Yeah, I like that. You know, I've never thought of it that way, where you are actually able to step back and say, I admire myself for what I have gone through, overcome in the journey that I'm on. And I think that's a huge, what is that, a mic drop moment?
Yeah, I think so. Like, sometimes you don't realize you have those moments until after it happens. But like, as women, we're shamed a lot for being proud of ourselves. Like, we're supposed to be sweet and humble and all of these things, nurturing, but somehow we're not supposed to take pride in our accomplishments. So at least I was taught that way, maybe. But I find that for a lot of women, and most of my clients in particular, is we're shamed for being proud of our accomplishments. Like we're not supposed to be that way. So for me, that was a huge moment when I realized I actually admired myself and I was proud of everything I had achieved.
I think that's really powerful. And what I like to, and I'm going to use this, I'm going to tell you up front, if that's okay, is the 3D vision board, because we do plop things on there and it is just sometimes wishful thinking, but to be in your home, and that is your vision, you know, what you have, that's the feel like, do you like going home or do you not, right? Is it because of the space or is it because of a person? And just to acknowledge where you are in that, and taking those steps forward in that area is huge. And if you need a space for yoga, meditation, this and that, you don't need always a new bedroom, but you need an area of a room, right? It is
you have to have something. Yeah, because
dedicated.
you're worth that. You're worth that. And oftentimes we don't believe that that is true. And it's just another thing on our to-do list, right? Self-care just becomes this another thing that's on our to-do list that we shame ourselves for not doing. But yeah, your home really is a 3D vision board. We can put up all the pictures that we want in that little frame that we hang above our computer or you know, that we look at every day. But when the entire rest of your space is reflecting scarcity or obligation or not being worthy of, and that's how we live, nothing on that vision board is going to happen, because the rest of what you're seeing and being reflected back to you is not in alignment. That's why it's so important that the whole space be in alignment with the vision. It has to be a 3D vision board because it is one. You just are either in alignment with your vision or you're out of alignment with your vision. And so, yeah, that is the foundation of what Feng Shui is, right? You're either in alignment with your vision or you're out. And that's how you use it.
A or B.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yep. If you need alignment, we find someone to help us. So I would love for you to just verbalize how someone can get in touch with you, because you do work remotely. How can they learn more, get more, and get in touch with you?
Well, if they really want to work with me, they can apply to work with me at peaceandprosperityalignment.com. That is working one-on-one with me to Feng Shui your office space. We can go into all of that if that's where somebody wants to work. But if you're more just still looking for the right mentor to help you create your space, but you're not quite at that point yet, and like you always doing the decluttering thing, you can find me online. I'm at my own website, krystalholm.com. You can download, I have a free gift that will help you get started, at least decluttering your space, at declutteryourmindset.com. And of course, I'm on all the social media.
There were so many great moments in my conversation with Krystal, and including that moment where she talked about looking in the mirror and just being proud of herself. So many of us don't pause. We just look at what we have left to do, but we don't pause and just appreciate what we have already gone through and what we've come through. And there's so much more to Feng Shui and interior design than just having this face the door. It's about clearing your energy. It's about clearing your mind, and about clearing a path to move forward into your life. So if you like this podcast, I encourage you to leave a 5-star review if you're listening to it. If you're on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe. Leave a positive thumbs up. It does so much for not only this channel, but also to put this information into the hands and ears that it can make the biggest difference. And until next time, let's keep building one another up.